What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Chat with Will Grant. We are doing this 3-month series on different topics every single week, and this is by far one of my favorite topics, breathing exercise. Breathing exercises. Breathing exercises has been by far one of the biggest life-changing things for me that literally really turned my whole entire life around. And I'm super excited to share how we can use breathing exercises to take back control of our happiness and our health. You know, before I was doing any sort of breathing exercises, I was lost, I was scared, I was confused, I was struggling with a lot of mental health issues, a lot of anxiety for years. I had pains all over my body. And when I started doing breathing exercises, everything seemed to change. And ever since then, I've been literally trying to get every single person that is around me or that is involved with anything that I'm doing. I tell them about breathing exercises. I tell them the story. And it's really cool to see so many people around me picking up breath work in the way that we would just exercise our physical body, learning that we could exercise our mind and exercise our soul and exercise our being through breath work. Edwin, how are you with breath work? Have you been staying on it, or what is your experience so far with breath work?
Big Will, it has been a breath of fresh air. No pun intended. But I tell you what, I would have never considered starting my day with meditation, much less breath work, until we started having this conversation. Do you realize this is episode 35. We've been doing this 35 weeks, Will. So for almost a year, I have been starting my day differently than ever before in my 50 years on the planet. And what a game-changing difference it has made. So yeah, you're not only onto something, Will, but you're preaching gospel innovation into people's spirits and souls when you can start your day from a much better platform of living happier and healthier and stronger by centering on breath work. So this is so critical to my success, and I know it is to a lot of other people as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like I said, I struggled with years with anxiety and overthinking, and just I had that constant chatter inside my mind that wasn't serving me. You know, like I said a few times before, I never even heard birds chirp until I was about 25 years old, until I started doing breathing exercises because my mind was so loud, you know, and I was so attached to my thoughts and so attached to this constant chatter, this monkey brain inside my head. And then as soon as I started doing breathing exercises, actually my first breathing exercise I ever did was when my big brother, which is kind of funny, I talk about a lot. My 3 biggest teachers in my life is 1, nature, just watching, you know, my garden grow. 2 is my big brother, and 3 is my breath. And my big brother, who's been one of the biggest mentors for me, has really put me on to all of my best stuff, from the super smoothies to the, you know, books to the Wim Hof breathing. He's seen I was at a time in my life where I was really at my lowest. You know, I was struggling with a lot of serious mental health issues and a lot of serious physical health issues as well. That was just making my mental health even worse. And then that first session that I did, I was on the phone and my brother talked me through a 15-minute Wim Hof breathing session where we did 3 rounds of about 30 to 50 breaths, followed by some breath holds. And after that 15 minutes, I kid you not, I felt better than I felt in years. Literally felt better than I felt since I was a kid. All of the anxiety, all of the chatter, all of the pain in my mind, and even pain in my body seemed to cease and chill out for a few moments. And it didn't just completely change where I woke up the next day and I had no pains, but that moment I felt better than I felt in years, and I realized what I was supposed to feel like, you know, and I just had no anxiety. I had no pain. And for the moment, I had this moment of presence. I had this moment of awareness where I could critically view my life and my situation with a clear head, where I really couldn't do for years before that. And this sparked just so much change inside my life and outside my life, to where I started changing everything. I started becoming hyper aware of all the things in my life that really weren't serving me. And I became hyper aware of all the things in my life that was actually important, and then the more I connected with my breath and the more I just listened to my breath, the more I listened to myself and became aware of myself and what I'm really truly here to do. And just become more observant and aware of my situation of my life so I know where to go next.
Well, I think that is probably a barrier that people run into when they start a new practice like breath work. I mean, it sounds elusive in the first place. Breath work, what does that mean? And I think there's a missed expectation on what it is that people will feel and experience when they start breath work. How did your story of awareness transform from those early days where it was awkward to really right now where it's a spiritual practice for you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was huge for me because I was in so much pain. I was in so much pain mentally and physically, and I would have done anything. And then I started hearing all these things about meditation. I started hearing all these things about meditation was the way to not only heal your mind but exercise your mind. And it was at a time in my life where my whole life was revolved around physical exercise and physical training, but my body was breaking down. I ended up breaking my leg, my knee exploded, my femur broke, I broke my collarbone, I tore my rotator cuff. I was going through all these injuries where I couldn't train myself physically. So I just kept hearing these things about meditation and I tried to meditate. It was just extremely difficult, like most people have went through. It's just picking up that practice and making it a practice was extremely difficult. But that's one of the first most important things that we could do is just starting becoming aware of our breath, because just becoming aware of our breath and to learn how we're breathing can be one of the most important things that we can do to just improve the way that we're feeling, because the way that we're breathing is constantly tuning our nervous system and telling our bodies how to feel and telling our minds much of what to think. And most of us are breathing wrong. And I know this sounds crazy because we're never really taught how to breathe. We just assume that we are born breathing perfect, which we pretty much are, and we continue to breathe perfect, which is actually not the case. Because of a lot of the bad processed foods and the stress and the chairs and the constant sitting throughout our days, we actually tend to change our breathing patterns, which become really bad breathing habits, much like our movement. And so bad breathing is essentially breathing through the mouth and breathing through the chest. And this is what most of us are doing. And this is what I did for many years. And I wondered why I was so stressed and so anxious, because when you're breathing through the mouth and when you're breathing these short, shallow breaths, that's literally telling almost every cell in our body to stress, to fight for our life. Because the only time that we should really be breathing through our mouth is when we're giving 100% maximum effort, fighting for our life, or just that 100% fight or flight. So throughout our normal days, we don't want to be in our fight or flight state. We want to be in a parasympathetic, rest, digest, calm, present, aware, and observant. And the way to do that is simply closing our mouth and making sure that we're always breathing through our nose throughout the day. And this alone is a practice of self-awareness. This alone is a practice of meditation, because if you just meditate every day but don't take anything that you learned in that meditation practice into your daily life, you're not really going to get much out of it. So one thing that you can learn and that I've learned throughout this process is everything can be a meditation of just trying to be as present as possible, being aware of your posture, not only your posture of movement of how you're standing and sitting throughout your body, but your posture of your breath work. Pay attention to yourself. Are you breathing with your mouth open or are you breathing with your mouth closed? And just to take that moment of awareness, like, oh, I'm sitting with bad posture and my mouth is wide open. And then taking and closing that mouth and taking a nice nourishing breath in through our stomach, which is not easy, which actually takes practice, will instantly realize that we can calm our system down. So, and this is the one thing that I wanted to give every single person in here, is any single time that you're stressed, any single time that you're anxious, that you're overthinking. And, a saying that I like to give myself is, usually the time that I notice myself thinking is the moment I catch myself overthinking. So as soon as you catch yourself thinking and being somewhere else, just feel your breath, connect to your breath, notice how you're breathing, close your mouth, taking a nice nourishing breath in through your nose and through your stomach, and then a nice long exhale. And that will just bring you into the present moment, calm down your whole system, and give you a clear perspective of your current situation so you know what to do next. And then the next thing is just picking up a practice of that. So not just doing it throughout your day, which is great, but actually picking up a practice of 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 minutes of setting a timer. And I find setting a timer extremely important, because if you just sit down to meditate or to start a breathing exercise and you don't have a timer set up, as soon as you get uncomfortable, you'll stop. And that will prevent you from most of the goodness. You'll be surprised how long 10 minutes can be when you set a 10-minute timer. So just set a 10, 15-minute timer. At 6 minutes, you might start to get uncomfortable. And that's when you get all of the goodness in of being able to train your body to focus, to train your body to pay attention, to train your mind and body to be able to stay present longer than just until the next whim comes up. So just by setting up that timer for 10, I find an extra bit of goodness as soon as you go past that 15 minutes. So, for 15, 20 minutes, just to set that timer. And every time that mind goes, bring it back to your breath. Every time that mind goes, bring it back to your breath. And this will train your mind and body to be better at being in that present moment. So then next time you're in a conversation with your child, you're not going to be thinking about what you got to do later. Next time you're trying to create something special, or if you're a writer, if you're a painter, if you're an artist, if whatever work you do, that could be just punching in your 9 to 5, the better that you do and the better that you show up for your team and your team member and your family, is the better, more present you're going to be. So, but to be in that present moment, not letting, the mind take you to what happened earlier, or the mind take you to what you got to do. That's the practice of meditation. And that's the practice of breath work. And the simplest, easiest way to start breath work is by setting a 15-minute timer and just follow your breath. Continually try to feel the sensations of that oxygen coming in through your stomach, in through your nose, and then long, nice, relaxing, releasing exhales out. And then, so there's one practice that you can do, and I highly recommend writing this down. So number one is just becoming aware of your breath throughout your day. How are you breathing? Making sure you're breathing in through your nose, out through your nose, a calm, steady, quiet breath. That's going to keep your system calm, and that's going to keep the anxiety and the pressure and the stress away. Because remember, every time that your mind starts stressing about before or later, just feel your breath, and that'll take you right back into the present moment. Now, the second thing is making sure you're setting a timer, and everyday practice is going to be absolutely crucial for practice feeling the way you want to feel and being the person that you want to be. So, and just connecting with yourself, because to get what you really want, you must be who you really are. And the more that you can sit down without any distractions, and just doing your best to listen to your breath, the more that you listen to your breath, the more that you're going to observe yourself and listen to yourself and really understand what's important to you and connect you with your true purpose. Now, the third exercise that I did when I was absolutely feeling my worst, that brought me a huge amount of benefit, is consciously trying to fall in love with my breath, to realize that it is a to realize that it's something to be grateful for, to be on this earth, being able to breathe, and knowing to be grateful for your breath, to be able to take you into the present moment, and realize that when you fall in love with your breath, you're able to fall in love with yourself. And when you can fall in love with yourself is when you're really going to bring your best self out. So a practice that I did when I was feeling my worst is I would just go and lay on my bed or lay on the ground, set a 10-minute timer, 25-minute timer, 30-minute timer sometimes, and just do my best to fall in love with my breath. And this isn't easy. It's not like you're going to fall in love with your first breath. It's a practice, but just trying to enjoy breathing and falling in love with that process of taking in that fresh oxygen, in that nourished oxygen, and then exhaling all of the pain and exhaling all of the tension and surrendering to all the bullshit. And then when you practice that for 10 minutes of just feeling that love for your breath, you're going to be surprised with how good you feel, because you're overwhelming your body with love. We all know love is one of the most powerful and amazing feelings that we can experience. So to fall in love with your breath and fall in love with yourself is going to help you feel really good and teach you how to be loving to yourself on the daily. And when you're loving to yourself is when you're going to see the best in yourself. And when you see the best in yourself, that's what brings out your best self. I've always noticed that specifically with other people as well. When I'm in a group of people and I'm looking at another person, thinking about all the things I don't like about him, I notice it brings out all of that of him. It brings out his worst case person or her worst case person. But if I just sit back and I try to think about all the positive things in this person, I notice that person, like, energy is energy. And when you give somebody good energy, you'll be surprised at that tiny little shift of where it literally will bring out the best in the ones around you, in the same way that it's going to bring out the best in yourself. So connect with your best self, connect with your strengths, breathe into your best self, and it's going to help bring out your best self. You got anything
So
to say
much
on
good
that, Edwin?
stuff. Yeah, there was so much good
That was a
there.
lot.
My hand was falling off taking notes. I think this was helpful for me, Will, when you went over with me different cues. So you have a personal trainer background, you have an athlete background, you know all about cues. And I think we can be newbies in breath work, not pay enough attention to cues to let us know that we're either progressing or that we're even engaged in our awareness of breath. Can you, I know you've talked about a couple here, but I want you to call those out as cues, be it how we feel, how we move, how our body is positioned, whatever it is, but cue us into knowing how we're progressing through breath work.
Yeah. So a really cool thing about cues, and I'm so glad you brought that up because that's a really clever way of putting it and making it simple for a newbie, is a really powerful thing about cues is it builds like ruts of habit. So every time that you do remember that cue and do that cue, it builds that rut inside your brain. So it's easier to get the cue the next time. And then when you get it again, it becomes easier and easier till eventually you'll become a really good breather without really thinking about it, except for on times of real intense stress. And then you have to be extra mindful of it. But a perfect cue is just, again, every time you notice yourself not feeling good, anytime you notice that mind running and that mind going, taking you from the past or the future, that's taking you away from the present moment. That is your first cue to stop and then come back to your breath. Become aware of how you're breathing. Because like I said, if you're breathing through your mouth, you're kind of telling your whole system and you're telling your nervous system to stress and to be anxious and to look for that tiger around the corner. Okay. So like the perfect cue is, and this is the cue that I used over and over and over and over, is every time I caught myself telling myself I'm not good enough. Every time I caught myself telling myself that I'm never going to get out of this pain. Every time I caught myself thinking about something that's hurting inside me that somebody else said that isn't even real. I would just stop and I'd feel my breath. And that's a perfect cue right there, because it becomes really difficult to think about what happened earlier if you're putting all your attention on the sensations of your breath. And then it might take one breath, it might take 3 breaths, it might take 10 minutes of it, but that's going to bring you back into the right now. And when you're really aware of your right now situation, that's what's going to give you that clear perspective and to know what to do. Because like if something is out of a line, it's going to help you clarify what you have to align, clarify what you have to do to feel your best and to be your best. So that's one of the simplest, easiest cues. And you can practice that and strengthen that ability through that daily practice of setting that timer. Of setting that timer for 10, 15 minutes. It's the same exact process. You'll be sitting there and be like, all right, I'm doing this. I got my timer set for 15 minutes. I'm just going to follow my breath. And then around your 4th breath, you're like, man, I'm kind of hungry. Like, oh, I'm wondering what I'm going to eat later. And then boom, you catch yourself. Oh, why am I over there? Come back to my breath. And that little cue right there, that little instant of noticing your mind wet and bringing it back into the present moment will strengthen that rut to keep you into the present moment when it really matters in your life. It's going to be the same thing of when you're talking to that loved one who you care about more than anything, and really listening and observing and to hearing them out of what they're saying. You're not going to be thinking about what you're eating later. You're not going to, or even the same thing if you got a creak in your back or if you got a creak in your neck, just to become aware of that and then bring back to your breath. It's really amazing that your breath is like your doorway in. So it's going to guide you exactly where you need to be, to where you're going to be listening to what your body's trying to tell you. Because our body is always speaking at us. Our body is always trying to communicate and trying to talk to us, but we just don't understand the language because we're too busy in our modern day lifestyle of the lights and the chairs and the TV. And we never stop and listen to ourselves because we're always in our monkey brain thinking. So we don't even understand the language. So we only know that our body's trying to talk to us when it's screaming pain. Hey, my knee is hurting so bad, or hey, my mind is going crazy right now. So we're only and we just know that it's screaming, but we're not quite sure of what it's trying to tell us. So if we sit with ourselves in that timer, setting that timer and just listening to our body, eventually, if you listen to that language long enough, you'll really start to understand what it's trying to speak to you and what it's trying to tell you. And then you'll be able to connect with that and constantly recenter and readjust you to your best self.
Yeah, the struggle is real, Will. Yesterday, I got off the tracks early in the day. I woke up late in a hurry. I did not do my morning routine. And when I came to the workstation and saw 87 emails, I know I was shallow breathing, but I was too much focused on what was in my inbox. It took me 3 hours till I really felt bad after 3 hours. I was shallow breathing. My blood pressure went up. I knew something was wrong. I got a headache and I was like, my goodness, what's wrong? And I realized I'd been shallow breathing from the time that I woke up for several hours. And it had a bad effect on me yesterday, Will. And it took me another half a day to reset that. So, man, you're going to fall off.
It builds up this tension, right?
Yeah.
It's like it builds up this tension of just squeezing and squeezing and squeezing and stress and stress and stress and stress. And what's crazy is even those emails that you tended to, you're not bringing your best self to those emails. We will always be our best self, present, aware, mindful, relaxed, and surrendered. So that's why even before I go into anything, if it's emails, if it's work, just to stop and take a few breaths and to set an attention can be extremely powerful.
So we've got a question from David. He's asking, when you are working in your journal, do you list a time that is planned for a 10 to 15 minute time for breathing, or do you just let it happen when you need a break from the day's events?
Both. One, like I plan that every single day, because what I found is when I didn't plan it and carve that time out as an important, it's just as important as any other appointment. To make an appointment with yourself, to connect and to feel yourself and to listen to yourself like, all right, self, Like, what do we got today? How are we feeling? And how can I show up to be my best? We have to set that appointment every single day. And what I've done is I put that into my morning routine. And as soon as I put it into my morning routine and made sure that I was doing this every day, that's when really it started making huge drastic changes. So I highly recommend in the morning, I always say before grabbing your phone, before checking into the world, check in with yourself. Because if you check into the world before checking into yourself, you don't know how you're showing up to the world. You're not showing up to the world your best self. So before grabbing your phone, before grabbing anything like coffee or grabbing your emails or grabbing your phone, just stop and connect with yourself. And that is huge. And then throughout the day, if there's some stressful time where I'm catching my energy super tense and I'm like, oh, I need to take control of myself and take control back of my energy and connect with myself and this present moment and my environment, then I'll stop again. I'll take a few minutes. I like to walk outside because I feel like there's a little bit extra benefits around some nature, around some trees, because we are nature, and if we want to do what's most natural, it's a lot easier to surround ourselves with something that's very natural. And that helps you kind of just clarify with how everything in the world is really working as well.
Yeah, it's always amazing. And I had to give myself some grace yesterday, Will, once I figured all that out. It was so clear to see where I missed the cue, right? I mean, I should have known when I woke up late that there is nothing in front of you that matters more than setting the tone for the day, but I blew right past it in this desire to catch back up my day when I really needed to catch back up on centering myself first before I step forward into the day. So even we can be doing good for so long. It's been weeks that I've been doing this, and it takes one day to make you go, you know what, it's okay. You learned something today. Now, just don't let it happen 2 days in a row, right?
Exactly. And that's my rule as well, as you have to give yourself grace, because there's going to be that day where your alarm clock doesn't happen. You wake up at 8 o'clock and you got to be somewhere at 8:30 and it takes 30 minutes to get there. That's going to happen, but what I like to tell myself is I give myself a 2-day rule. I'll never miss those important things 2 days in a row, because, an asteroid can hit on Tuesday, but the odds of it hitting on Tuesday and Wednesday are pretty low, so when that Tuesday ends, you want to make sure that, hey, how can I make sure that my alarm's going off the next day an extra 15 minutes earlier so I can connect it with myself? And having that little grace period is important, because if you don't give yourself that grace period, you'll think that, oh, I missed it today. I failed. I lost my routine. I lost my habit. I might as well just give up, which is the farthest from what needs to happen. Instead, making a point, learn from the failure, because remember, the failure is the opportunity. The failure is the opportunity to get better and to know what happened when you missed and you didn't show up your best, and how can you maybe readjust or learn something for the future to show up a little bit better on the next day.
Yeah. So, Will, what I also appreciate is you created a program, right, to help people become centered in their breathing. So I know a lot of people have a tendency to go acquire a lot of information about breathing, but they never put it into practice. So I appreciate David's question so much, in that you can tell someone's priorities two ways. You can look at their pocketbook or their checkbook, and you can look at their calendar, because those are two places you will always find someone's priorities: where they spend their money, which is energy, and where they spend their time, which is energy. So I think it's helpful to acquire knowledge, but it's equally as important to have a plan to put that knowledge into practice. And I love what you've done with providing people with the knowledge and skills in practicing good breath work. But the second component is on individuals to prioritize it in their time.
Yeah. I mean, you have to, like you said, make that intention and carve that time out of your day if it's a real priority, and like, I feel you must make yourself a priority. You know, you must make yourself a priority, because if you don't, then you're not going to be as good for the people around you. And then it becomes selfish. You know, showing up and just doing the bare minimum is selfish, you know, and I don't think that it's the best. We don't have that luxury. None of us should have that luxury to not show up our best self, because it's about more than just us. And that's when we're going to feel our best, when we become our best and contribute our best to something bigger than ourselves, you know. And that's why I think it's so important to find what works best for you. And that's why breathing exercises are just so powerful, because we know that we have to exercise our body and challenge our body for us to be physically healthy. But what about our mental health? You know, and we're seeing almost everywhere that we look, there's somebody struggling with mental health issues. If that's anxiety, if that's a depression, if that's bipolar, if that's PTSD, mental health issues are on the rise, you know, and a lot of that is because we're lacking self-awareness. We're lacking the connections with ourselves, and we're lacking the connections with our environment, because we're so based on this very shallow level of connection. And that's what the internet is, and that's what a social media is. It's you know, it's the lack of depth, you know, and the depth and understanding ourselves is really what's going to take us to the next level and have us fulfilling our lives to our full potential, you know. And that's where, you know, the Wim Hof breathing was really the most powerful thing to me. So this is the big number two. Number one is just learning how to become more self-aware, learning how to become more aware of your breath, yourself, and your environment. You can do that all day, every day, and with a practice. But the biggest thing I did, where I noticed the biggest change, was that Wim Hof breathing. When my brother first showed me this, and then I went up to Washington and he showed me how to do it in person, and I felt good. I couldn't explain it, but all I knew was my mind felt better than ever. My body was feeling better, and I felt like that I was releasing so much of this built up tension that I've been holding on for years. You know, we don't realize it, but we hold emotions inside our physiology. Every time that somebody cuts you off and you have this anger and give them the finger, you produce these toxic chemicals that get stored inside the water inside our body and get stored inside our survival centers. And this kind of blocks your level of perspective and holds you back from really flourishing and growing into your best. So when you're doing this deep type of belly breathing of the Wim Hof breathing, you're moving around that energy and you're able to release that tension. That's why I felt light. I felt, you know, present. I felt there, because a lot of us is just this constant buildup that's weighing us down. So once I told myself, look, 1 to 3 rounds every single day, that's when everything really changed. And the Wim Hof breathing is super simple, and it's extremely powerful. What I've found is you can have a 45-60 minute meditation session where you can go really deep, deeper than you've ever gone before, because you just go layer after layer after layer. But what's super powerful about that Wim Hof breathing is you can get there almost immediately just by activating your fight or flight. You know, that's when you're taking in as much air as you possibly can, breathing in through your belly. You're activating all the cells inside your body, where your body's like, okay, what's about to happen? Everything is about to come up, because you're activating all of your cells and you're activating your being by taking in those deep, heavy, as big as breaths as you possibly can. And then after you take about 30 to 50 of those deep breaths, everything's speaking. Your arms are going to be tingling, your feet's going to be tingling, you might feel a little lightheaded, and then to exhale and then hold. Now all of a sudden you're holding your breath. So you're activating everything in your body, everything's speaking. Remember, it's about learning the language of your own body. Everything's going to start speaking to you. And then you sit in that moment of stillness and hold your breath. And that's when all of that stuff is going to come up, and you can just sit back and observe. And it's going to be very natural for that mind to start coming up. Why are you holding your breath? This is uncomfortable. You know, just take a breath in, you know, or like, oh, why are you doing this? Trying to talk you out of it. Or a lot of times, if you're breathing in those deep belly breaths, something from the past might come up, something from yesterday might come up, something from 5 years ago might come up. And that's when you could just sit back, be the observer, become aware of it, and that's when you let it all go, because you have to become aware of something to first release it. So, and then that first round, what I found is one round will just get you past your monkey brain, and then that second round you'll get a short moment of awareness, because you're starting to release that top layer tension, that top layer chatter, and then you'll get a little bit more aware. So you might be digging into something a little bit deeper, digging into some trauma or some emotion or some physical tension that's a little bit deeper. And then you're able to surrender and release that. And then by the third round, you can go into some of the deepest parts of your brainstem, deep into your lizard brain. And this is when your body gets really good at not only releasing the tension, but fighting off inflammation, fighting off the disease, fighting off all of the bad bullshit that's in us. And because we're activating all of our good cells, we're activating all of our goodness to overcome all of the BS, that tension, that buildup. And when you do this over and over every single day, you start to really learn about yourself. You start to really understand yourself, because what it felt like for me, because I've literally still to this day, every single day, I make sure I get about 3 rounds of this, and it's been over 3 years now, and I'm still finding new little moments of new awarenesses of how I'm learning how to control my system just a little bit better. Because when you're doing this deep breathing, our breath is known to be our doorway in, right? So when we're taking in these deep breaths, we're taking ourselves directly into our inner being. If we're not just listening to our physiology, we're listening to our spirit, or if you kind of like the Eastern way of thinking, our chakras, our energies, our spinal cord, or even if you don't believe in that stuff, you're listening to your physiology, because everything that we're feeling is physiological as well. Okay. So when we're taking in those deep breaths in, we're going right into wherever that is. That's when we can kind of poke around, see what's going on, because we have all of thousands of different buttons and controls of our body, but we only know the most very basic, because we kind of lost the need to use them, because we have air conditioning and we have artificial lights and we have our phones to where we don't have to really connect to the deeper parts of ourselves like we used to, or like our ancestors used to. But once we can stop and connect to the deepest parts of ourselves, that's where our purpose is. That's where, the DNA is from our past ancestors, to realize why we're here and connect to our biggest strengths. And also maybe understand a bit of our weaknesses as well, because when we can understand our weaknesses and connect to our biggest strengths, that's when we're really going to flourish into our fullest potential. And that's what this type of Wim Hof breathing has done for me. And from what I've read and what I'm seeing other people and what is doing for other people, is you're able to go directly into your brainstem. You're able to go directly into your physiology and start listening. And the more you listen, the more you understand. And the more that we understand, the more that we can effectively use and to function inside our daily lives.
Yeah, and that's a big process to take on, right? It feels different. It looks different when you're doing it. Remember, you can't do it driving a car. You can't do it standing up. You probably need to lie flat, Will, right? I mean, your safety officer needs to step in and go, Wim Hof is a real deal, and you might get lightheaded.
Yeah, Wim Hof is extremely powerful. Wim Hof is extremely simple, but extremely powerful. It's going to take you right into your brainstem, like it's going to take you right into some past trauma, maybe, and the more that you can surrender and let go, the more you're going to get out of it. Okay. So you don't want to do this driving. You don't want to do this in water. You don't want to do this standing up. You don't want to do this sitting on a high chair. Lay down and really just block everything out and go fully in. Go fully in, and then letting go, like Wim Hof says himself. You take in that as much as you can, and then you just release. And you're releasing that toxic carbon dioxide, and you're releasing that tension inside your body. And when you're doing that, for 30, 40 breaths, sometimes you can wake up crying. Sometimes you can wake up laughing. Sometimes, like I've felt so many times or before, my arm twitching or my leg twitching or even my body just like almost compulsing, and that is your body releasing that stored energy. That is your body releasing that past trauma. And that's okay. That's beautiful. That's one of the most biggest benefits of doing this is you're able to release a lot of that toxic buildup, that toxic bullshit. But like, you want to be safe. Like it's not going to help you much if you do it driving and then, you go deep, deep, deep into that deepest layer where you're then, crash or, pass out or something is not what you want to do. You want to be laying down in a safe spot, because the more that you can surrender and the more that you can let go, the more you're going to get out of it. So be smart and be safe. Don't do it while driving. Don't do it in water. Lay down.
So Will, is there a challenge this week related to breath work?
Not quite yet, maybe, but I want to give you guys one more. Okay. I want to give you guys one more super breathing exercise that has been absolutely one of my favorites and what I find probably the coolest one. And this is probably the coolest one because it's anti-aging. We all love that. We all love anti-aging. This literally activates our body's ability to heal ourselves. So this could be mental, this could be physical, but say if you have a tummy ache, say if you have pain inside your elbow, say if you have pain inside your back, and you want to just activate your body's ability to heal itself, this is a great exercise. And it just happens to be extremely, extremely simple. All you have to do is stop and extend your exhales. So the more that you extend your exhales, the more that your body will relax into its parasympathetic state. And the parasympathetic state is your body's ability to rest, digest, heal, and repair. And it's super, super simple. You just have to extend your exhales. So what I like to do is I'll lay on my back. For extra benefits, I can elevate my feet and just practice taking 3 to 5 second inhales and start with 10-second exhales. 3 to 5 seconds in, 10 seconds out. And just after a few of those breaths, you've manually activated your body's ability to heal and repair and digest. So this is really good if you're anxious, stressed, having stomach issues, digestive issues, high blood pressure, or if you just have an injury that you're trying to heal from a little bit quicker. Extending your exhales can be extremely powerful. And once you can extend it comfortably to 10 seconds, push to 15, push to 20, 25, 30 seconds. And after a few of 3 to 5 seconds in, 30 seconds out, your body is literally just draining out its inflammation. And like after me doing Wim Hof for 3-4 years now, where I'm pretty connected with what's going on inside, I can literally feel my body draining its inflammation, not only during the breath holds of the Wim Hof, but on these long exhales, because breath holds are essentially long exhales, because when you exhale and then when you hold your breath, to continue holding your breath, you have to release and just keep releasing a little bit more. And that's what activates your body's ability to rest and repair. So super simple. Set that timer for 15 minutes, lay down, elevate your feet for extra benefits, and then just practice long exhales. I read there's an ancient Chinese proverb or an ancient Chinese saying that when you can extend your exhales to 30 seconds is when your body has almost no inflammation or no disease in it. And what I've noticed is when I'm really stressed, it's really hard to get 10 seconds, and but if I catch myself really stressed and then I try to do a quick 10-second exhale, it's really difficult. But after I do it 3 more times, it's a little bit easier. And as that becomes easier, my body becomes less stressed. And because it's back and forth. So the less stressed you are, the less your body's stressed, the less inflammation you have, the longer that you're going to be able to hold those exhales. And this actually feels really, really good. Like if you set a timer for 10 minutes, and if you do these long exhales for about 10 minutes, it is crazy how good it feels. After a while, you'll get this huge rush of blood and comfort and like almost like this orgasmic feeling, is probably the best way to describe it, throughout your whole body, of just this warm blood going up and throughout your neck. And it just feels crazy good. And what I found is that comes from over 10 minutes of extended exhales. It's crazy. And then afterwards, your body's just so relaxed. And I've noticed just this heightened senses of awareness. I could see greens and blues and colors a little bit sharper. I can see a little bit clearer. I can hear a little bit more. I can breathe a little bit cleaner, and I'm just more aware. And the more aware you are in your life, the better that you're going to feel, for sure. So yeah, those are the three things. Just for a quick little recap, just in case you're taking notes and you're writing this down, and you really want to get the most out of it. One is just become more aware of your breath, how you're breathing. Make sure throughout the day, you're breathing in through your nose, using your stomach, mainly through your nose, and just becoming aware of how you're breathing and how you're standing and how you're being is going to be the first step to becoming better. And then start that daily practice. If it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes of just putting your attention and your awareness towards your breath, is literally going to train your body to be better. And then the next thing has been the biggest factor is try that Wim Hof style breathing. Make sure you're in a safe place, laying down, and take in those 30 to 50 of the deepest inhales you possibly can, and then letting it fall. And then after 30 to 50, you exhale, you let it go, and do that breath hold for as long as you can. Now, make sure, if you're doing the Wim Hof breathing, that you do the breath hold after. That's where most of the goodness and the rebalancing of all your chemistry and your physiology is. Because if you just breathe heavy over and over and over, you're going to actually get your chemicals a little bit out of balance. So to breathe heavy and take your body to one extreme and then breath hold for as long as you can, that's what's going to actually recenter and rebalance a lot of your chemistry, a lot of your hormones, and that's what's going to give you a lot of those crazy physical benefits as well. And the breath hold is where all the goodness is. That's where you're really training your mind to observe and to listen and to dive deep, deep into that brainstem. And now the third one is that anti-aging, is that healing. Lay back and practice those long exhales, okay? And the more that you could do this, you can literally add years to your life. I read about a story, I'm not sure how true it is, but I read about a story about this guy who went into the caves in Tibet and did this for like 10, 15 years. And he went in with gray hair and came out with a full full hair. And he took off like 10, 15 years added on to his life. He literally reversed his aging process just from he did this for 15 years straight in a cave, extending his exhales, which is super, super extreme. But who knows, how far that you can actually take this, but that literally, reverses the aging process. So to give a challenge out, again, I'm sure I've given this challenge out before, but give me 7 days. 7 days. That's it. 7 days for 15 minutes. Wake up and set a timer for 15 minutes and just feel your breath. You can start it off with 1 or 2 rounds or 3 rounds of Wim Hof, and then just follow your breath after that. That's been my favorite. So for 15 minutes, do 2 to 3 rounds of Wim Hof just to get you right in there. And then start breathing and just being aware of your breath until that timer goes off. Do that every single morning before grabbing your phone. And I want to challenge you guys to do that. And after doing that for 7 days, come back, email Edwin or email me, message us, contact us on social media, and let us know how it's going. And if you want to go deeper into this subject, I got a couple options for you. One is, like Edwin mentioned earlier, I have that Breath 101 masterclass that takes not only a laundry list of different breathing exercises to try, but it shows you how to use them, when to do them, what each one of them is good for, and it teaches you all about breath, on how to use your breath to take control over your mental state of being, how to use breath to take control over your physiology, and how to use breath to take control of your happiness, to take control of your health, and not only how to use it yourself, but how to teach it for other people. And that's over at thewillgrant.com, that Breath 101 Masterclass. If you're looking to really master your breath, I highly recommend checking that out. And it's got a 100% money back guarantee. So if you get it and for some reason you realize it's not for you, we'll give you your money back. No problem, no issues at all. The next thing is I want to give you guys a few books. If you guys want to read a little bit more, the two books that has really expanded my knowledge on this subject the most is The Oxygen Advantage by Patrick McKeown. And I can put these links in the description below as well. So The Oxygen Advantage by Patrick McKeown, and the new book that just came out, Breath by James Nestor. I think it's the new science of a lost art, but that book is really cool because it teaches you that we've really been studying breath and using breath for thousands of years, and really the power inside our breath and how we can use our breath to really take control over everything that we're doing. And that Oxygen Advantage book is really powerful to just explain to you what is the best way to breathe and how to get the most out of your breath. And the third thing I want to tell you guys is if you want to join in on these conversations, it's super simple. Go over to chatwithwillgrant.com and reserve your spot. We're having new topics every single week. And if you sign up and if you reserve your spot and for some reason you can't make it, don't worry about it, because we'll actually send you the replay, and then they eventually go on YouTube on our Chat with Will Grant series that we're at 35 episodes, you said now, right, Edwin?
Crazy, 35 episodes. And yeah, Ray wanted to say that the challenge is accepted. Thanks. And David wants to say, you're obviously excited about this week's topic. I agree, David. It's hard to tell if Will is excited or not, but clearly he is. He said, it's contagious, Will. Can't wait to add some of what you're talking about to the coming week's regimen. So way to go, gentlemen. Way to go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you can see this energy. I'm sure you can see the passion is because, like, I'm not BS. These breathing exercises has been the biggest factor in changing my life. Because, it's like, people who are lost and they're hurt, and then they found like a religion, all of a sudden you hear that they want to tell everybody about it, right? And that's kind of what this feels like. And that is because I found this thing that helped me so much, and I was struggling. I mean, I kid you not, I struggled with the worst mental health issues of anxiety, of this pain, of this, like I'm sure there's people who had it worse, but I was in a bad spot, not only mentally, but physically as well. And then all of a sudden it's like, I found the key, I found this key to unlock of, okay, it's not easy. I'm not just going to wake up one day and it's perfect, but I found these cues, I found these things to make sure that I can constantly realign myself. And it's truly amazing the power that we have in our breath to literally take control over how we feel. Ask yourself, if you had full control over the mood that you're in, how would you choose to feel? You'd probably choose happiness, right? You would probably choose feeling light and good and comfortable and, and feeling strong and healthy. And with our breath, we have the option to literally use our breath to go directly in, press these buttons around, and to readjust and to have us feeling exactly the way that we want to feel. We just have to learn how to do it. It's like an instrument. We have to learn how to play that instrument. And when we learn how to play the instrument, we can play some really beautiful music on this planet, and the better that we make ourselves, and the happier that we make ourselves, and the healthier that we are, and the stronger we are, the more that we can contribute and to help out the ones around us. And what's awesome is the more that you help out the ones around you, the better that you are, because we are our environment, and that's something to not forget. And that's why I'm so passionate about telling every single person about this, because this stuff really works, and this stuff works without the pharmaceuticals, like if you go to the doctor a lot of times and you're telling that you're struggling with anxiety, they might give you a pill that has some serious long-term consequences. And not even mention this stuff about breath work, not even mention this stuff about your nutrition. But if you nourish yourself, your body will nourish you. And when you're nourished, then that's when you're really able to nourish your environment. And that's what this is about, because the stronger that we can make ourselves, the stronger that we can be as a species and as a planet. And who doesn't want to live in a better world? Right now, more than ever, we could all wake up and say that I want to live in a better world. I want to live in a better community. I want to be in a stronger family. I want to be on a happier team. And the first way to do that is to make yourself happier, healthier, and stronger. And then all of a sudden that brings your team up a little bit more. And then once you take care of your first needs, then you're able to help nourish, the ones around you. Then all of a sudden you're on a really strong team, accomplishing stuff really powerful. And that's when you're going to feel your best.
Teamwork makes the dream work, right, Will? Jonathan says good and unique information about breath. Thank you. So well done today, Will.
Yeah, thanks so much for showing up. And like I said, if you want to join in on these conversations, go over to chatwithwillgrant.com. If you want a little bit more on breath, go to thewillgrant.com. Check out that Breath 101 mastering class. We also have that 6-week Happy, Healthy, Strong that takes everything from the breath work, from the nutrition to the workouts to the morning routines, all in one, a 6-week to literally take you from where you are now to where you want to be. So if you guys have any questions, just leave in the comments below and keep us posted how you're feeling with the breath work. We're out.